This episode is brought to you by legendary choke tube maker Rob Roberts. Rob Roberts Customs, the performance shop for all things waterfowl, turkey, and upland. Keep an eye out for the 2024 CWA Gun of the Year, a Rob Roberts Franke Affinity 3 20 gauge.
So the gator hunting, is there overlap with duck season, or is that after duck season's over when the water gets a little warmer?
It's after. And what a lot of people don't get into is like I'm able to go in the springtime when it's around turkey season, if you would. And so that part helps. But in the fall, they basically will stop doing any kind of gator hunts right before, and their thing's duck. And it is really amazing what they are doing, because thousands and thousands of ducks, they're basically, they're running their own duck factory, if you would. They're bringing in a lot of tame, putting them in high fence, letting them build, trying to build up the duck population and everything for that area. Now, we're in Arkansas, which is kind of like you guys in California. We don't have to do that. We've got plenty of, well, I'll take it back. Arkansas pretty much stinks anymore, but normally we always had a lot of ducks, And our season's about 2 weeks too short. As of right now, we have a lot of water here in Arkansas, and we are full of ducks.
Okay.
But it's kind of like catching them on the return migration, if you would, because I think with the agri practice and everything that's going on, I think the ducks go around us on the front end and catch us on the way back, because now we're still sitting here like I've got some lease properties out there that are absolutely full of rice and full of beans that and it's in water that's not touched. There should be thousands of ducks on it. And now there is, actually. I mean, they're there now that you can't shoot at them. But they're so it does help. It's helped growing back. But and I recently got to come to California finally to come on a hunt with Rock Merlo and those guys there. Rock's a great guy, super good guy. We've been friends for a long time, and he's been trying to get me out there. I finally come out there, and it was like, what was really cool is I got to come back and tell everybody in Arkansas, let me tell you a place I've been. They said, where I met some of the finest people I've ever been around. They said, really? Where? And I said, California. And they're all like, no way. Media really hammered you guys in California. It's like absolutely some of the finest folks I ever met. And had a great time out there with them. The ducks weren't there at that time. We did get into, I think one day we killed 5 different species of geese. Yeah. So it had a lot of fun. It was great. I hope to keep coming back to California because it's awesome out there.
Yeah, it's a special place. We think so. It's super unique. But today's our guest is Rob Roberts of Rob Roberts Custom Gunworks out of Arkansas. Thanks for joining us, Rob. So tell us a little bit about your duck season this last year. It was a weird season out here, so we kind of
we struggled. We struggled hard.
Yeah. I tell you what I do. I am fortunate enough to get to hunt different areas.
Yeah.
So Canada's always a great place to start. That way, if you go up in Canada and you whack them real hard and get to see a lot of ducks, so the rest of your season that sucks, you can go up. I had a good time in Canada.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah. I'd agree on that. That's something everyone's got to.
Believe it or not, one of our neighboring states here in Arkansas, everybody wants to come to Arkansas because Arkansas is Arkansas. No. Oklahoma is absolutely on fire with ducks. I'll hunt there 2 or 3 times a year. We've had, I got a lot of good buddies over there, Falco Outfitters, Flatline Outfitters. Those guys over there have really, they do their work, and the duck hunting is awesome. Now, and like I said earlier, I did come to California. You guys at the time were just absolutely full of geese, but those are your big states. And I've told people after that, I said, the places that you would not, and you would not believe all of my buddies, people that I've grown up with and everything here in Arkansas go, you're actually hunting dry ground, Here in Arkansas, everybody's used to, you're either in mud or water about, chest deep and trying to kill things. And come out there on dry ground where you can wear your work boots and get down in a layout and kill all the ducks you want. It's amazing, but a lot of fun. But the season for the most part has been great just because I do get to travel. I do get to see a lot of different folks.
That's good. Do you guys have a split in Arkansas?
Oh, yes. We do have 2 splits in Arkansas.
2 splits.
Yeah. And what's bad is they ought to not even have the first season prior to it. They ought to just take that one and put it at the tail end, and Arkansas would become a mecca, But it's the first season is like you get some of they'll go out and shoot a few ducks right off. Early season, teal season is really great here because we do have lots of rivers and stuff like that. You can get on the rivers. At that time, blue-winged teal are everywhere, and they do have that early Canada season here. So that's a lot of fun. But duck season hits. It's you kill. You're hunting the local ducks right off. After that, usually by the second season, it gets by the second split there, it gets pretty good. And then like I said, for the last few years, it just kind of dies out. And then about the time the season comes over, like I said, for right now, we've got ducks. We've got them absolutely everywhere. But as far as a hunting perspective of it, it's not doing you any good.
Yeah, what's your general season end date?
End date. That's something like it was 2 weeks ago. I can't remember when the exact
mid-January.
It's usually January 31st is when you kind of figure out everything's over.
Yeah.
So Rob, your guns are kind of renowned in the waterfowl space for sure. But tell us a little bit how you kind of got going with the business, kind of where you started, and kind of what you guys are doing now.
We what I've done in guns, our actual start. And actually where I come up was years and years and years ago, and I'm like 137 years old now. But back then, I had a couple buddies, and both of those got really big into the gun world and stuff like that. I wasn't. I was with a family business, but there was 3 of us there that shot a lot. So we got to where it basically started off, we were shooting. Oh, we always hunted, in Arkansas. Usually back in those days, you had to hunt to eat. But the kicker to it is we'd end up with a trap thrower on the back of a truck hub, and we're betting dollar bills on who can break this and that, It seems like all good stories start where there's drinking and gambling. But the kicker to it is that's how we started. We started playing with that. And then one buddy's like, well, my dad was a skeet champ, and we have these. We went and worked on the skeet field. We started playing with that, and then sporting clays come around, and we were all competitive. And so we all got into all these different shooting sports with a shotgun, and it kind of makes full circle. You go from hunting to competition. Now you're back to hunting again. And what the main thing I try to do is I try to bring some of what I learned. I was fortunate enough to be around people that, like this guy won the national sporting clays champion 3 times, or this guy was a 17 times world champion skeet shooter. Lot of. You start learning tricks that they were doing to guns, and hey, I need my gun, I need this. Like I remember a guy today, which you cannot do anymore because of the plastic stocks and everything they're putting on them. But this guy's like, hey, look, I need this at 14 and 7/8 length of pull with a 3/8 back pitch. Well, people today don't even know what that is unless they're a gun fitter and they're dealing with a, Perazzi, Kragoff Colt or something to that effect. And but what I learned was the way the guns fit, you shot better, And at the end of the day, the gun should shoot where you're looking, not where you're aiming. And so, so I started getting into like doing the forcing cone work, trigger work, all these different things that make the gun shoot smoother, just as you would on a rifle. I was trying to take the shotgun world into it. And now if you're getting the patterns and you're doing this and you're doing that, and we've got several, believe it or not, high-tech machines, which, and I actually can run these, believe it or not. But we're able to go out and shoot these guns into machines and go, okay, look, you're shooting a Benelli M2 12 gauge with a 28-inch barrel and at the end of the day, we went out here and shot it, and the Raptor 2 choke, shooting Black Cloud 1.25 ounce number 2s is what this gun loves. So when you go duck hunting, this is what you want in this gun. This guy's gun over here may be a different scenario where we shot your gun. It actually, like the T3 series we got, shooting some heavy 18 or heavy 12, I think it is, on the duck loads compared to turkey. But okay, we're shooting this heavy 12. This is what your gun really loves. And so that's part of the business we try to grow. And actually, we're trying to do a better job of it. Again, we've started out again this year where we're pattern testing folks' guns. We're trying to make sure the point of impact's where it's supposed to be. We do the other work. We try to patterns kills. People always said speed kills ducks, but in reality, all the speed in the world is great if you can't hit nothing with it.
Yeah.
We try to get it to where you got the patterns, you get your gun shoot straight. It's on you on the ducks, but your gun absolutely loves this load. So we offer these kind of services, and that's it's been a big hit. We got in with Benelli Performance Shop there. We started that back, gosh dang, it was 16, 17 years ago. I did that by getting in a fight with them guys.
It's a good way to start.
I told them I think I had like I'll tell you what I did. I had $248 in my pocket, and I told them, they told me that if I went out and bought a couple of these Benellis and I did this work and sold them, that I can't do that. I said, what do you mean I can't do it? If I go down here and I buy these guns from a store and I do this work, I can't do it. He goes, no, you cannot. I said, well, you stand back and watch. Being a real tough guy, I was all great, except for the problem is I had $248 in my pocket. Hell, I couldn't even barely spell Benelli, let alone buy one, So as that went on, it ended up, I went to the National Wild Turkey Federation convention in Nashville the following year, and I had one of these all set up that I bought and did all the work to. And the guy comes by and he goes, hey, can you do this work for us? And I said, well, us, there's just one of you, but sure. I said, who's us? And he goes, Benelli USA. And I did. And I was like, of course, I'm just the old hillbilly redneck. And I'm like, you're that, how are you? And it worked out good because he's no longer with Benelli, but it was really a good gig there at the time. And we started doing lots of guns, and Benelli's always been super great on helping us build the future, you know what I mean? And it's like we really like being able to take these guns and do different things with them, which we do things to all guns. But, that was the deal that we got in a fight, so we were partnered with Benelli, who's always been great, but we do the exact same work to, like, Berettas. We can do them, some of the work, like on cock and handles and stuff like that, the mechanisms are different, so we can't do them to Brownings and Winchesters or some of those type guns, but we still do forcing cone work, porting, trying to get this right, build the choke tubes, go out and do pattern testing, Cerakoting, dipping, and all that kind of stuff. We do all of that, and so it's it's been a heck of a ride, and I do know that the future with some of the guns that are coming out, not this year, but in 2025, we do have a little incentive, or we kind of know it's not incentive, but we actually see what the future's coming, and the future's changing, and God ain't it, but the futures went a little different, so there's going to be some new products, some new ideas coming from these companies, and there's going to be another huge change in the way shotguns and everything else are in the next year or two. When we build these hunting guns and these chokes and this stuff, we actually have a passion to go out and make them shoot, try to get them to where we're getting the best out of them. We're trying to find best loads, the best that. Because when you go out and you spend all the time and effort to go out here duck hunt and stuff, and we all know that's a high-dollar game, shoot it and kill it. It's not, don't wound it, let the eagles come in or the dogs have to chase it for 2 miles. Don't play the game. Just, if I was a duck and I was flying through the state of California there and you two were sitting there shooting at me, kill me or miss me. Don't wound me. Let me go here and let an eagle start tearing my guts out, And so that's kind of what we do. It's kind of short and simple, but that's who we are, I guess.
So my question is, if you have somebody send you a gun and you say, hey, this gun, pattern's best with this choke in this shotgun load. In California, we have obviously a hard time getting the same ammo consistently because of the restrictions that we have here. So most of the guys I hunt with are, I'm shooting whatever I can get. How much is a different shell? Say you're shooting a Kent fast steel versus a heavy metal. How much can you get variations in your shot pattern when you switch shells?
It is a bunch. I mean, actually, it's one of those things that a lot of times you do get what you pay for, but a lot of times you don't get what you pay for. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword on that. But in reality, and we've told this forever, we see a lot of, and I know I'm about to hurt some people's feelings and they're all going to start cussing me and everything else, but we don't BS about it, and I had a guy the other day and I said, the thing about it is, let's see, we pattern guns for a living. And I mean, that's just it.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why I should lie to you about blah, blah, blah. And I told a guy, and it really worked out good because I was hunting with this guy for 3 days, and he come in, and I won't mention what he was shooting because it was horrible. It was like, quit shooting that load. It is terrible. I said, when we put them on the paper, we see the inconsistencies of this load. It's nowhere, shape, or form what you need, but I said just get rid of it. And he was a tightwad. I get it. You can go to Federal, for example. We do a lot of stuff with Federal, and they have a custom shop, and they build a Rob Roberts signature load on that. Oh my God, it's poison. It is it's one of those things, even when you don't have ducks, you ought to be able to shoot in air and one ought to fall, because it's so. And I told him, I said, but I deal with guys that, we hunt a ton of. And so when you go in and you use some of these cheaper loads, like a lot of trends, and here's a trend, for example, and like I said, I'll get picked on about that or hated on, but you'll see like a lot of people have went to Bismuth again. 15, 20 years ago, it was a big bismuth craze, and then they went off bismuth. But at the end of the day, you're having to pay for bismuth.
Yeah.
Bismuth is one of those things that it's not cheap. It's not because they're breaking it off in you. It's just, is it good stuff? Dang right it's good. It's very good stuff. TSS is the most poisonous thing that they'd come out with for a shot shell. But do you really want to pay that if you're a guy that's going to duck hunt every day or every opportunity that you got to go? I'm getting old. I don't go every day, but it's like, we got ducks. Well, guess who's there? I mean, it's like, okay, I don't go to bed. We've got ducks. But the kicker to it is there are cheaper brands. And when you do the work that we do to these guns, what we like to look at is the fact is, if you'll do this, even your less expensive shells are going to work. I'm going to pick on, because like I said, we're good with Black Cloud, or Black Cloud with Federal, so I'm going to pick on them. If you go out and you shoot we call it blue box, but the speed shot Federal, you take that load in a 3-inch shell, shooting 12 gauge now. But if you take that in a 3-inch shell and you're shooting 1.25 ounces, even 1 1/8 ounce shoots patterns well. But you go out and you shoot that in an 1.25 ounce load. And what now here is an Arkansas click. I shoot twos. I shoot twos like everything. I don't care if it's a goose, a moose.
I do the same thing. Yeah.
And I like twos. And so I'm going to go out there and I have no problem if I reach in and all I've got available to me is speed shot 3-inch twos. I like 1.25 ounces better than 1 1/8 ounce, just speed factor because, and what's really crazy is sometimes the slower speed factor puts you back into everything you ever shot. If you dove hunt, if you went and shot sporting clays or skeet or whatever, you're always around that 1,250 to 1,300 feet, 1,200 to 1,300 feet a second. That's all you've ever shot your entire life. Now you're going to go duck hunt and you're going to jump it up to 1,550, 1,600 feet a second. Well, hell, you know, it's one thing you shoot and you say, well, I'm not sure I was either in front of it, behind it, over it, or under it. You know, but I know I didn't kill it. But the Speed Shock is a very consistent, cheap load. I shoot a lot of black cloud myself just because it comes in. I have shot the Bismuth. I have shot TSS. I've shot all these different loads, different companies that put stuff out there. Hey, man, they shoot great. They do. But you don't, you know, it depends on where you're at. You know, I've dealt with guys that say, look, I go on one of these paid hunts. I get to hunt twice a year, and I want the best available. And they, you know, money's not an object. Well, hey, grab a hold of your TSS, get out there and just go to whacking. And but for your everyday guys that do hunt a lot, that goes in, you know, they're already, you know, serious duck hunters around here. They always said, well, how many times have you been married and how many times you went through bankruptcy court so we can figure out whether you're serious on duck hunt or not? It's like, well, I've married 4 times. I've been through bankruptcy. Oh, you are a duck hunter. Kind of crazy. That was not me personally, by the way. I've been happily married now going on. This will be my 42nd year. That woman has had nothing but sheer bliss.
Yeah, congrats.
She'd tell you different. But no, that's kind of the thing. Ammo is important, but a lot of times don't just go, well, that's the cheapest. You know, if you're talking $1 a box here and you can get something that is consistent, shoot the consistent loads. At least you know where you're at. And, you know, the steel shot part of it has gotten so much better. You know, heavy shots done the same thing. Their loads have become better as this is going. You know, and you got a lot of guys, we see it when it turns over even into the turkey side, that everybody now is shooting 410s and all that.
Yeah.
I'm anti. Yeah, 410s, you know, I'm from Arkansas. 410 is what you use to shoot snakes and squirrels. Other than that, and that's just because you're playing with squirrels. 28 gauge is great. Sub gauges are great for if you're in a situation, but we're in the overkill business, and that's what we want. The 20 gauge with the ammo and everything that the 20 gauges have come out with, man, it's super. I mean, there's so many different avenues on 20 gauge stuff. It's super, but you know, and I've got buddies that are like, hey, I only shoot a 20 gauge. Well, if it's down below freezing temperatures and I'm in a rice field, and which, you know, Arkansas and California, Northern California up there where I was hunting and stuff like that was kind of the same type. That looked like the same ground I'm hunting, you know. And so you get in a rice field, you got a lot of wind blowing, you got really super cold temperatures. I'm not going to come out here and throwing rocks at them. I want to come out here. It's going to be a 12 gauge, and it is going to be something that is, you know, it's going to work. Now, your ammo, as far as shooting 3.5s, I'm sure you guys are around a lot of the guys shooting 3.5. We've taken the three. I don't think there's any reason you need a 3.5-inch shell at anything. And it used to be on turkeys, which I kill lots of turkeys, and I travel lots of states. I don't want you to think I'm a poacher, but travel lots of states, and on that, I shoot 20 gauge only now on turkeys, and it's because I can shoot them farther with a TSS, which a lot of people are like, that's bogus, that's a lie. No, it's not a lie. Well, you know, we've taken TSS on the turkey side. We've run them out targets at 75 yards, put on big screens, big targets, big everything. We shot the 3.5-inch shell out of a 12, 3-inch 12, 20 gauge 3-inch. And what we found was the 20 gauge would drop 6 to 8 inches. Now, using the TSS loads now, they would drop like 6 to 8 inches from point aim, point impact. The 12 gauge stuff on 3-inch was dropping 12, 15 inches. The 3.5-inch was dropping 18 to 24. Sometimes wouldn't even hit the paper out there at 75 yards. And so, and the recoil was huge on it, and so that took us back into the waterfowl world again. And it's like, okay, let's run these 3.5-inch shells against apples to apples. Let's do 10-shot clips. We run them through our computer stuff, and we're like, all right, we're going to run this. Here's a pattern. Even though we got the computers, we're actually walking up there, looking at it, putting eyes on. And for example, like I said, we've done a lot with federal, so I'm picking good and bad with them. And so we go out there with Black Cloud, and what we were finding is like a 3-inch Black Cloud twos at 40 yards, and we were shooting into the paper, into the computer, into the box, doing all that, getting exact pellet counts and everything like that. We would shoot 10 shots, and then we'd go to the 3.5-inch Black Cloud twos, and same choke, same gun, same everything, do the same thing. And pretty much, I think 100% of the time, well, I know it's never 100%, but let's say 99% of the time, our 10-inch circles, which is your smaller core, always had more pellets in the 3-inch shell compared to the 3.5.
Oh, wow.
And then when we shot the in a 20-inch type circle, which I think 24 inch is what I want to see on shooting ducks. People say, well, we went out there and we had X amount of pellets in a 3-inch circle. That does you absolutely no good. 3-inch circle, hey, you got a distorted pattern, and it's great if your target's not moving and you hit the target. First off, shotguns don't shoot straight most of the time, so get you a 24-inch pattern, and if they stick their heads or anything inside that, you kill. And so that's one of the things that we learned with that was the 10 and 20-inch core patterns on the 3-inch shells were always outperforming the 3.5, even though you'll have more pellets as a whole out there in a 30 or larger. If you act, you're not a good shot, you kind of suck in general, and you really like getting beat up, oh, crap. Get a lot of them. Shoot them, bang them, get off, show your bruises. Kill any ducks? No, but look at this. I got beat up. I got dislocated shoulder. My collarbone's broken.
With all the patterning analysis that you guys have done, do you guys see any type of pattern between manufacturers like a Winchester, Benelli, versus a specific brand of ammo that tends to work best with that firearm or that brand?
What we normally see, honestly, is that every one of these of your bigger, let's say Winchester, Apex, Migra, Remington, Heavy, Federal, all of them, they've all got a good line of shells. Mm-hmm. They actually do. If you're, if you turn around and say, look, I know these guys at Migra, they're really great. Which one? Well, hey, go out there and shoot that 2x4 load they got. It shoots very consistent. It's a very good load, blah, blah, blah. If you turn around, I'm going to tell you, we did get the opportunity to shoot some of the new Remington stuff that's coming out for next year. Remington's got a couple in it. They brought in, there was 4 different loads, and they brought in to run through our machines and stuff. And they're an Arkansas company. They come up and it was really good. We got to visit back and forth, and they brought these loads up, and they said, these are all prototypes we want to test out. And I told them going into it, I said, I'm anxious to see. They had it's a duplex, which I never really was a guy with duplex type loads. TSS changed a little bit of that, but most of the duplex, they're only going to do what your biggest one's going to do type thing, But they did have a BB2 that intrigued me. I said, well, BB2 load, they had a 2x4, 2x6, BB4s or something like that. They had 4 or 5 different loads. There was actually 4 loads. And I said, well, the BB2 load really intrigues me. I'm anxious to see what this thing shoots like. And, man, it's a house fire now. You couldn't get it this year, but next year, Remington's coming out with that, and it's a BB2 load. And so the moral of what you asked, where I'm going is yes, all these guys have these, all these bigger companies, what we'll say, but they always have good loads, and then there's some bad that they're having to take care of. Joe Blow over here wants those. But like I said, I'm a guy that'll shoot straight twos, and it don't matter if I'm shooting teal. I'm going after them with twos.
When you're referring to these quote unquote bad loads, is that, out of anybody's gun, no matter what, they're probably just not going to pattern well? Like, just the lower quality, we'll say, is, like you said, you get what you pay for, or will some of those lower end loads still pattern well, just not as consistently?
Yeah, I would actually like to give you bona fide on that, but like I said, I don't want to, I have trouble pissing people off anyway. But at the same point, I have had consistencies of pattern. We had some boys, of course, one thing they do here in Arkansas is every town has somebody that builds a boat or a duck call. And we did have a guy here, these guys that build duck calls, and you would know them if I say them, so I'm not getting into all that. They were in, and they were sponsored by a big company there, and they were shooting their lower end ammo. And we went out, and I said, man, this is not good. I mean, if you're going to go to this trouble to get your gun to work, at least, for the same price, you could buy these guys over here. And I don't really like naming those because I'm not here to badmouth somebody, because once you start badmouthing somebody, it looks like you have something against them, and I don't. I have nothing against these guys. But their load is horrible. I mean, one time, and I told guys, I said, here's what you do. Okay, you go hunting in the morning, you grab a box of that ammo, you go out there and you kill your limit, just boom, boom, boom. You're on cloud nine. You come out, you're the killer, you're awesome. Tomorrow you go and you notice that, man, you're struggling. You're not hitting as much. Well, boy, I'm off. I'm off today. I'm not doing what I don't know what I was doing, but I was off. Well, then they come next day and they can't shoot each other in the blind. And they're like, this sucks. Well, something's happened to my shotgun. My choke tubes suck. Blah, blah, blah. It's not the case. I mean, that steel didn't actually change in any of your gun or your choke or whatever. Your ammo was inconsistent. And it was so, we were noticing, and we showed these guys, and there was like 6 or 7 of them. They were doing videos and everything else, and they were like, oh my God, this is terrible. And I said, that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you'll swatch, if you'll swap, move up, go to the next one. Like I said, that was a big major company. They were shooting a bunch of their dirt cheap loads, and you move up to their better loads, you're going to see that now you're killing things, because now you're putting more of you're getting patterns that are the same every time. And then, you still got to shoot, but get your gun to shoot where it's supposed to, get the patterns where they're supposed to be, and shoot something that is consistent. You do not have to pay $150 a box for shells to make them do it. I told you that earlier. That's probably the cheap shell out there that I think actually performs, and I've shot a million of them, is like that Federal Blue Box. I mean, that is a very consistent low end compared to some of the others. Now, as you move up, you're going to find these other companies, whether you're shooting Black Cloud or you're shooting Drylocks or you're shooting that Migra or that new Remington BB2s or some of your heavy shot, your heavy metal. You're going to see that stuff, certain guns really like it, and those particular loads are going to be consistent. So if you get a consistent load, your gun shooting good, and your gun, then put them together. Your gun shoots good and you got a consistent load, they still may not be where you're at, but when you find the consistent load and the gun shooting good and they do match, then you quit worrying about it. Now you go back to worrying about, hey, do we have ducks? Where are they at? What are they doing? Where are they coming? Hey, did I feed my dog? Did my boat? Which
Yeah.
We all know by the end of the season, none of those things work. The dog's usually fed, but other than that, everything else has already turned to crap.
Yeah, but we get that a lot where people are shooting multiple different boxes of shells in the same hunt, and then are worried about why can't they hit anything. And we always try to say find the ammo, whatever it may be, that patterns and you're confident in, and just stick with that.
Yeah, and we deal with like a lot of brand new hunters, and I'll have people show up, and this might be their first or second hunt, and they go, well, I have, a modified choke in. Should I bring out my full choke to switch through halfway through the hunt? And then should I switch back this and that? I'm like, no. This isn't how we do this. Like Jeff was saying, it's like, find what works for you. And we're obviously a lot less specific and we can't pattern before they go out. But, just our basis is find what works for you and stick with that. Don't go changing from 1,500 feet per second to 1,350 feet per second and then throw in a different choke and expect you're going to be on.
And you're with what you just said right there. I actually did this. I told them one year, I said, here's what I'm going to do. Every time that every morning, I'm going to grab a different box of ammo. I'm going to go out. I'm going to play around. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And dude, I got to where I couldn't have shot a duck if it was on the water. It was, like I said, when you're running those different speeds, you're way above, and pretty soon you start guessing yourself. I'm shooting in front of it. I'm shooting behind it.
Yeah.
It's a huge problem, especially with the new hunters that are already in their head.
Yeah. It goes back to the old butt, bird, beak, boom. If most of the time, if they'll go back to those 4 Bs there, it kind of works. Speed come into a play. Like I said, I'm not going to pick on any companies, but when they really started coming out with speed years ago, people started noticing that they were killing more. Well, they were killing more because they really were not good shots. They were using the speed thinking now all I got to do is shoot at them. Well, you guys know if you're out here shooting at geese don't look like they're even moving. So most of the time you do get to shooting straight at them and you're not hitting them. They're flying off. Geese are tough on that because of that. But if you stay around the same speeds, I like stuff around that 1450. I do like it to be a little hotter than what you normally use. It'll help you out on good days. But get what's consistent. Once you figure out that you go year from year to year, and you've been using, I've used whatever, pick one, and I've been using that heavy metal in twos for 5 years. Well, don't change it. Keep staying with it. Just see what you can do to make. Now, once you swap guns, you might want to try it in that gun and see that whether or not the gun really likes it or not. But most of the time it will, because once you get on good, consistent loads, they do shoot through whether you're shooting a Browning with a big bore or a Benelli with a small bore. And I do know a lot of that's changing. Your bore diameters are going to come into play here before long on these different guns, and there's good and bad in it also.
Are you talking about the coning that you guys do, like that service, that's going to change with the gun that you're buying, or is the actual diameter of the actual muzzle or bore going to change?
Yeah, well, like the forcing cone work that we do a lot, your Berettas, your Benellis, your European-style guns, Krieghoffs, Perazzi, even your high-end guns, those have the forcing cones in them. The forcing cone, basically, if you'll look down the inside of the barrel, you look down the tube, it looks like an O-ring in there, which is not what it is, but that's the appearance of it, okay?
Okay.
What we go in, we do our own type reamers. We don't just call Brownells or one of them and get, hey, they got forcing, we can do it ourselves like some of these ammo companies did here a while back. It's stupid, but don't get me started on it. But it's one of those things that you go in, we build them towards the barrel. You got to line them with the boards. You got to do everything so that you're not changing the point of impact. You're not changing anything else. So what it does is basically, if you can see this, you've got this in your barrel, and basically we're tapering it back in. So what happens by doing this, you're taking a little the back pressure off the shell, off your shoulder. So you notice a felt recoil difference on your shoulder. Plus, pushing it out forward, and there's no distortion on these shells. We don't have to have forcing cones because we live here in the U.S. and we're using plastic wads and all that. On your European market, a lot of times they're still using paper and cardboard and stuff like that as the wads, and that's what it was developed for, was so to do that. But you're also seeing a lot of American-made guns, like your Brownings and Remingtons and stuff like that, are starting to come out where the forcing cones are being built, or the barrels are being built without forcing cone in it. You know, I mean, so that's what you're seeing already, which tells you, you know, we've had people say, well, why do you take them out? That's stupid. Well, actually, it's not too stupid, or people like Browning and them would still be putting them in all their guns, you know. And so that's part of the play. Bore diameters are big. You know, the bigger the bore diameter, the shorter the shot string. Duck guys prefer, you know, and that's Benelli's always had really small bores, which makes your shot string longer. So when you go boom in the air, all these pellets are out there, okay? So for me to sit here and say, well, this one's 4 foot long, this, you know, no, I can't do that. But if you got a long shot string and you're shooting from the duck, well, the tail end of it might be what's killing your duck. Skeet shooters, for example, like the long shot string. Trap shooters, on the other, liked a shorter one. So they went with bigger bored guns, which a bigger bored gun, what it does, it shortens that shot string, so you got more pellets on impact. And so to kind of put it in a perspective, where you take like an 835 Mossberg, you know, that's a cheaper version gun. I'm not knocking. They can all get, you know, everybody get mad at me. I don't care. I'm too old. Get mad at me. But okay, you take that's a 10 gauge barrel, bore diameter wise, you know, it's around 776, you know, and you put a 10 gauge barrel on a 12 gauge gun. So what happens is you're shortening that shot string. So for turkeys, it's been great, because turkey hunters are the world's worst to try to teach something to, because, okay, here's a turkey's head. When its head's up, you go boom, everything turned into a big contest, and I'll blame the NWTF for a lot of that. They had their silhouette shoot, and it was like, well, those guys are world champions. It's like, of what? Of we never win. They were like, why didn't you go? And it's like, because I think it's stupid. You're trying to get all the pellets in a 3-inch circle. Well, I don't want my shotgun. You know, if I'm gonna do that, hell, I'm gonna bypass that and shoot it with a rifle. But that's distortion. You know, I want that even. If he sticks his head in a 15-inch circle, he's toast. But all right, so here's your turkey, and let's say us three here. One, you know, I'm shooting. I only get 100 pellets in a 10-inch. You're getting 200 pellets in a 10-inch, and he's getting 300 pellets in a 10-inch. Whoop-de-doo, because this turkey sticks his head up. You go boom. The first pellets hit. The head falls over. All the rest of the pellets go over the top of the dang turkey. So it's like, I don't care how many pellets you got in here. If you're sitting here counting pellets, enjoy that. And I mean, we deal with folks that spend their thousands of dollars every year to grab their turkey guns to go out and shoot it over and over and over because, well, my buddy had 13 more pellets in his 10-inch than I did and all that. I'm looking at them and it's like, God dang, dude. I think there's a drug called like Razapam. You need to put one of them under your tongue, dude. It's not about how many pellets. It's about putting the pattern out there and killing, okay? The ducks is similar. You know, you do want that. So what we're finding is downside to these big bored guns into the duck world is the fact is we also deal with extreme cold temperatures. And so, you know, one of the things DU a while back asked, this was several years ago, and they always asked, what is one thing, if you give somebody an idea, what would it be to, what advice would you give? And my advice was always, bring your ammo that you're going to shoot tomorrow. You know, if you got your shooting bag or your backpack or whatever you carry with you, bring it in the house. You can leave the gun in the boat. You can leave it in the blind. You can do whatever you want to with your gun. But bring your ammo in and get it at least at those temperatures because, you know, temperatures really affect the rifle, but shotguns, people don't think about it as that. But if you go in and you got cold temperatures, you're more apt to have that bloop load, and you go boom, boom. Now you've blew out the end of your gun, you blew the choke out, you swelled the barrel, you did this. The first thing you're going to do is, well, it was the choke tube's fault, it was the gun's fault, it was the ammo fault, when in reality it's your fault. Get your ammo in there, keep it at a good temperature. So what we're seeing and where we're seeing things is some of these new guns that are going to be coming out in the near future. I'm trying to be somewhat politically correct as far as I don't piss off the whole world. But you're going to see larger bore diameters coming out in some of these guns. And when they start putting these 10 gauge bores on 12 gauge guns, they're going to have a problem if you're not taking care of your ammo because, for example, that old Mossberg's been around forever. I seen it personally happen to a very close friend of mine's dad who was one of these hillbillies that up here that had absolutely all the money in the world, but you'd never know. Yeah, people would feel sorry for him in buying breakfast or something, you know what I mean? But if he wrote you a check for $5 million, it's good. But he was a big Mossberg 835 guy, and he had his turkey loads, and the neighbor's cow got on his land. The story's just hilarious. He owned, you know, like he had one farm up here, had 2,600 acres of the most beautiful land you ever seen, and neighbor's cows was tearing down his corn feeders. He goes in, pulls out the Mossberg with the turkey loads that was in it from springtime. It's the middle of winter. He shoots the cows to blow them, and when he does, he goes boom, and the rib on the gun, it looked like Elmer Fudd. The whole end of it blew out, and the rib come back and hit him between the eyes. I had a good laugh on it. It was hilarious. But he was like, what happened? Well, here you go. You got a 10-gauge barrel on a 12-gauge gun. You leave us out there in the freezing weather. All the gases go around the wad system and everything inside the barrel. You shoot a bloop load. Your second one goes in. Now it's got something in the middle of there that it's got something obstructing it. So now it blew up. Barrel hit him in the head. It was awesome, but it didn't kill him. I mean, I would probably still giggle a little bit if it killed him, even though I like the guy. But it's just like, this is dumb. This is dumb. This is something that people ought to know about. And I do think this is a problem in the near future with your extremely large bore guns and taking care of your ammo.
Yeah.
But I hope that. I mean, that was just. I know we went from forcing cones to that big thing there, but that is something folks ought to know about.
Well, I mean, with folks getting into hunting or people that have hunted a long time, I mean, all shotguns come with a number of what we call factory chokes. I know when I switched to what we call aftermarket chokes, my shooting consistently increased by a lot. But there's still a lot of folks that do use their factory chokes. Is there a percentage that you're seeing in terms of like going from a factory choke to the aftermarket choke? I know you guys have your new Raptor series. You guys had your T series prior to that you guys make in shop. And can you also talk about, you know, ported versus unported and kind of the importance of the choke itself and how it kind of operates and what a shooter is getting from these better chokes?
Okay, and like I said, I won't go. I'm not cutting down anybody else that's in the business. I'll go on what we do, and so there are several companies out there that do care and they do go into chokes, and there are several companies out there that are just making a cooler looking version of a factory choke. But there are several that do care, right? And so from our perspective, what we do. We've tested what we call a parallel section in the choke. And so the best way to explain a parallel section in a choke is if you took an hourglass and you flip it over and the sand goes through that tube and it sprays, okay? If you take that tube and you make it a bigger diameter or longer diameter, what you notice is bigger, we start looking at the sand coming out the bottom. So if you take that tooth and you make it a little bit longer, then what happens is it holds that tightness, if you would, longer. So what we do with parallel, we started in on the parallel section, which is something that we start from no parallel to clear out to, at one point we were even designing a choke that was about this long, that to put it out to a 2 1/4 inch parallel section. And what that means is, if you were let me talk turkey choke, but just because of the numbers are easier than a duck choke, okay? If you were dealing with a 660 constriction, that parallel section inside that choke would be 660 from either this long out to so long, because we want to see how the patterns change. And we're able to take them out and shoot boom, 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 boom. And so we can get quicker stuff with it. So where we have always found, and I've been in this business for myself and for others or whatever for, longer than that, probably 40 plus years. I mean, I've been around dealing with pattern on guns and stuff, good 40 years worth of it. But God, I'm old. But at the same thing, as it goes into it, we always found that at 1 inch to 1 1/8 inches parallel, there really wasn't a whole lot of change. But once you went past that 1 1/8 or once you was under that inch, and I'm talking 12 gauge now, once you went in or over, your pattern started changing once again. It was like it was holding pattern longer, and we were getting better results. So we've always stayed with a 1 inch parallel section. Okay. With that said, we went on, and like I said, we determined what chokes. We did our triple threat series. We always call it T1, T2, and T3, and people are like, what is this? Well, we try to take that. This was one of my schemes I come up with way back. To the fact is, I had been with all your world-class shooters. I had been with your hunters. I had been here and there. And so you would see people go to, let's say, a sporting clay shoot, and they walk up, and they look at the target, and that target, they figure it's 35 yards, and you see that guy screwing his choke in, screwing another choke out, and all that, and it's like, come on, shoot, Then you'd see a world-class, this guy that's won the world's championship, or he's a two-time national champion. He walks up here, he looks at the target. He might even be shooting fixed chokes in his barrel, and he goes boom, and he's breaking the hell out of them. You know what I mean? He's smoking them. He didn't have to do all this back and forth. So we fed off that. So what I did was we started taking these chokes on our triple threat series, and we would take like a Browning, a Beretta, Benelli, and we would find out exactly which chokes shot the best out of these guns at these particular distances, especially on duck stuff. And then, but we would do turkeys was that, but especially on duck stuff where we're seeing different patterns at different, distances. And so that's where the T1, T2, T3 come in. So we didn't call them, okay, that's a ski, or that's a light mod, or that's an improved mod. None of that. We didn't go there. We went to actually what constrictions, like, for example, our T3 choke in a Benelli might be a 30 thousandths constriction. And if we turn around and did it into a Beretta, let's say this has a bigger bore than the Benelli, well, it might be 32 thousandths or whatever. We just never give those. We just say T1, T2, and T3. As the Raptor series come along, we started in, I never liked a ported choke. And the reason why I never liked a ported choke is, you hear lots of, and we've done test after test after test. Ported chokes take out recoil. Ported chokes do that. That's not true. It is absolutely. I'd get somebody to prove me that happens, and I'm still going to say you're still lying. It does. What it does, we've tried it on every test that we could come up with. But what a ported choke does is it is a wad stripper. So going back to the turkey side, And the reason why I do that, the turkey side I like the patterns on the waterfowl side, but I like to go the turkey side for point of impact issues, because the tighter that you make a choke, the more the point of impact comes into play. So, and like I said, shotguns don't shoot straight anyway. You kind of got to work till you get it to shoot where you're looking. But, okay, so you take these guns, and what we noticed is you take a choke that was non-ported, and you would shoot it, and you had exact patterns, good, bad, or indifferent, but they're always consistently hitting the same spot. Now you go to a ported choke, which is going to tug on that wad at some point. And since the ports go around, it is a shotgun, so it's not going to hit. It's not a rifle barrel or anything like that. So you're going to catch a pedal or whatever. You're going to tug on the wad here, there. And so we started noticing that, well, that was great if it had been over here, but this time it shot high left, that time it shot a little bit low, and this time over here, we're over to the right now. And it was like, no, we're not doing it. We're doing nothing but non-ported. And not that it's easier, not it's what we want them to shoot exactly where they're supposed to be, and we want the patterns out of them. Plus, tugging, a little bit of a tug on a ported choke does one thing that is really good. It just gives enough tug that your shot comes loose from the wad, keeps the wad from blowing through the center of your pattern, especially on close targets. So if, for example, if you've got one and you have a turkey walks in here at 15 yards, you're going to blow slug the whole thing right through him. The wad and everything's going right into him. And if you're going to kill him, body shoot him, quit trying to be a hero and blow the head off, just blow him right, whacking. But so I got on one of these schemes. I was killing gators. I had a 12.5-hour drive. I'm out in South Carolina killing things, and I'm on my way back. And my buddy out there, he says, why don't you, I was in like our big truck. It's got turkey feet all over it and ducks and whatever, it's just like a neon sign. I was coming back, and he said, you don't have gators. He said, you kill all these gators. So my mind starts thinking on, well, this might be the time to come up with our ported choke tube. I'm going to come in and put like gator bites into them. We'll use a gator, I've got all this. I got too much time on my hands, and I'm sitting out here, middle of all this. And so we come back, and I started trying to come up with a new choke that was ported, even though I'm against porting. It's like, public likes it, let's build one. So we started in on this, and we spent 3 months building different chokes. And once again, it started off with all the parallel sections, all these different things that we do to them. And then I went out, and it was like, all right, let's port them, teardrops, elliptical, straight lines, jagged lines, this, that. All these different things, which was, my first identity was make it look like a gator grabbed a hold of the gun and ripped it, And what we found is we would take a choke, we would shoot it in the gun, it shot great. Then we'd come in and we'd port it, and it went to crap. And then we'd go do another one. We bring it in, it went to crap. We were losing like 20 to 30 pellets out of the core every time we ported the choke.
Wow.
And that's when I come in, I said, all right, guys, look, we're not going to spend this kind of time and effort to build a product that's not as good as what we're already building. I mean, that's insane. I mean, I get it. If it's all about money, that's what you do. But I'm financially embarrassed, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So we turned in and said, all right, we want to dress this up to where it looks cool. And so that's when we come in with the Raptor. I had Reaper. We kind of put the R's, the if you would, in the line. And so that's kind of where we went with it. And so Raptor kept coming in because we could actually use Raptor with the 2 R's, which is our logo type thing. And a Raptor kills everything, hawks, eagles, crows.
Because you're a big Jurassic Park fan?
And all that. That's who's killing all our ducks anyway. I mean, they're in Arkansas, they kill more than we do. But so that gave it a look, and as we went on with this, what we noticed is, and I call it a Tula cut. I think I made that up. That's probably one of them times it's like where in the world did that word come from? Well, it's some of this hillbilly vocabulary, we'll call it. But it was a Tula cut. So what I did is to come in and it's like, all right, I want to put a cut here. I want to do this. Because what I'd learned over the years that putting a tug inside that choke tube would actually make your cores more solid. And so we tried it from knurling some of the insides, putting wad strippers, doing this, that. And I've never been a fan of wad strippers because that normally causes you to blow up a gun in cold conditions. But if there's something to tug on this wad, just a little bit to get it out there, your cores become stouter. And so what we ended up was we found the spot. And like I said, I had an engineer in here with us at workforce and he was very patient listening to everything I'm coming up with. A lot of guys that get into gunsmithing are because they are machinists. Well, I'm not. I was the driver. It's kind of like in Days of Thunder. He said, I can't tell you what I'm telling you. All I know is I need this, this, this. So he takes us to the mechanic and tells him, I need this, this, this. That's what I did with our engineer here. And it's like, I need this. Let's try it. Let's move it to here. Let's move it to there. I need something that comes in. So we played with different cuts and everything else. So what you'll notice is on these Raptor chokes, there's a cut inside this thing, and it worked out perfect by the time we got done because our core of our patterns, a lot of guys that's been out there and said, hey, look, I've been shooting a Benelli with a T3 choke, and you're telling me now I tried your Raptor series and I'm missing things, but it's old tight. The constrictions are still the same, but the cores, we found out how to get the cores. So your serious guys that are killing, especially your guides, your outfitters, stuff like that, they can still go super tight on the Raptor series, but for Joe Blow, we're actually backing it up a number if you would, because that's what it is. So we tried to make the pattern hold longer. Whatever that pattern is, we try to get that pattern to hold as long as it'll go, and that's
Gotcha.
That's what we've done with our chokes. So there, like I said, your question was on some of these other companies. I don't know what all they do, and I know a lot of it's all about how much marketing, how much money, and that type of stuff. Which you got to have money to pay the bills. But we've never crossed into that, as we will. We're moving to where we're going to start putting our chokes more into places where we never pushed it before. So we've got a deal going right now that probably by the end of the year next year, you're going to start seeing them in more of your retail outlets, which we just didn't worry about it. We always pushed our gun service and everything else we did as our primary because everybody and their brother made chokes. Well, we're finding out the chokes do work, and I'm not trying to sit here and be a blowhard. I hope you don't take me as that. But they do work, and we need them in the store, so there they go. That way I can die peaceful.
So my partner over here, Carson, he's got a choke that's stuck in his gun.
No, not a choke that's stuck. So where we hunt or where I've hunted a lot in the Suisun Marsh is very brackish and lots of salt. And maybe in my younger days, I may have not cleaned it as much as I should have. And the barrel is completely rusted into the basically stock of the gun where I can't separate it to get to the inner workings. Are you guys able to separate those? Because I can't drop my trigger carriage at all. I can't get anything out at this point.
What gun is it?
A Beretta A400.
Oh, yeah. Okay. For the most part, yes. And the reason why I say we can get the chokes out of all of them, what we like to do is we got them. I'm just trying to make sure that we have the tooling to come back in and fix it. What we do with that is when a gun becomes, for the most part, here I'll pick on somebody, and I don't mean this in negative, but when Browning come out with that Invector DS system, they put a little ring at the bottom that's supposed to hold that big long choke from moving around, but in reality it held water. So if a lot of guys don't, you should always take your choke in and out once or twice a year. If nothing else, just let the water out, wipe it off. It don't matter if it's on your shirt and stick it back in there. But if you notice the choke starting to swell a little bit, which regardless of whoever, apologize for that. I keep getting texts while I'm sitting there doing it. What you find is, like on that particular Invector DS system, it was holding water in there, which was causing it to rust. So if they come in and out, it would go. But in general, you're shooting lots of steel, lots of heavy, lots of TSS, a lot of that stuff through your waterfowl gun. You need to check those chokes from time to time because they'll start to swell. If a guy calls us and say, "Hey, mine's getting tight," throw it here, send it to us. We'll send you a new choke. That's the way we look at it.
Yeah. So my choke isn't the problem for me. The problem where I lie in is that the barrel down to where it connects into the receiver. You know, if you take the forearm off and then you're supposed to be able to slide your barrel out of your receiver to get to your trigger mechanism. The barrel is rusted into the receiver at the connection point. Oh. That is the issue. And I luckily every time I pull the trigger, it goes boom unless I don't have a shell in. But at some point, I'd like to be able to get in there and clean it. Have you guys seen that before? Are you guys able to fix something like that?
We see a lot of that stuff. I'd say first off, send it to us. We'll take care of this for you. We'll get this all loose. There's penetrating type oil like Kroil, Kroil, for folks that can't understand my Southern English. But the Kroil will go in, it'll penetrate, it'll take some of that loose. Rubber mallets come involved. There's a few things to get it off, to get it cleaned up, and steel wool and all that to clean it up. That's some way I'm sure we can get that handled for you. The other side to it is getting back to the choke tubes being stuck. Okay, so regardless of why it's stuck, what we do on certain models, which that's something we'll have the tooling for, is we actually, it took, dude, I'm telling you, it took me 30 years to figure out how to do it and do it right. We will actually set this barrel up in a mill. We will come down and cut that choke tube out of it without having to, a lot of people, well, I'll just cut off the barrel and rethread it. Well, you can't, because if you'll notice all your new guns, if you run your finger down the barrel, when you get out towards the choke tube, it starts swelling. There's a swell. So your factories are going to swell the end of the chokes so the outside diameter is wider, okay? The reason for it is if you've got a 30-inch barrel and this happens, you say, well, I'll just cut it off to a 28-inch, 27.5, whatever it is, wherever the rib's at, cut it off, put a choke back in it. Well, once you cut it off, the outside diameters of the barrel are not wide enough to take that thread design. And it's not, at the end of the day, you got to have certain ODs, because that way our choke, his choke, their choke, factory choke, they'll all fit. You don't just put threads in them, okay? So what we did was we come up with a way to try to save people from spending these $800-900 barrels, which that's what the factory wants you to do. Is you want to sort a barrel? Well, hell, here's $800. We'll sell you another one. What we did is we've got it set up where we will actually come in and, for not a better term, we're going to whittle this choke tube out of it, and then we're going to come back in and we're going to run the taps back through it to put it back to, let's Crowd Plus, or I think you were talking about Optima HP there. We're going to run through, get them threads right, and now here you go. Now here's your new choke. This new choke works fine, whether it's ours, his, or whoever. And so it did save you a bunch of money from having to buy a barrel and do it. So yes, that is. Now, every once in a while, somebody will have something that's way off the wall. It's been in there forever. What happens is a lot of people will try to get that choke tube out. They'll stick choke tube wrench and big bar or heat it and stuff. And what ends up happening is quickly they'll turn it and it'll gald. And once it galds in, you're done. It's screwed. And so that's, yes, to answer your question, yes. And that's one thing, we are one of the few that can do that.
Yeah, you might have my gun in a few weeks, because it is after the season's over and it hasn't been cleaned in a while.
Well, I have a Browning. It makes sense now how you explained it with the Browning choke at an A5. Everything was fine. I was cleaning it, and literally, I don't know what happened, but same deal. Seized in there, and it's still in there. I don't shoot the gun anymore, but it makes sense with how you're talking about it holding water at the bottom of it.
Rob, we appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Well, good luck with everything, and thank you so much for joining on us for Saber for the Blind podcast. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Save It for the Blind podcast. You can find our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.